about industries, we're talking about businesses. But I think again, the listeners might, I mean, they're individuals. We're all individuals. We're not corporations. So I know that you look at not just the future in the next 10 years, but kind of even further out, up to 50 years or so. So when we're talking about kind of the future of jobs itself for the individuals, what's going to be, what are people going to need to be? Is it programming? Is it creativity? Is it, what kind of skills are people going to need?
So you've got to have soft skills. So when we have a look at the dates kind of between 2020 and 2040, there's still going to be there's going to be change within the workforce, and that's going to accelerate. But fundamentally, when you have a look at the type of jobs that AI is already starting to take over, particularly in the cognitive space, let alone kind of in the blue collar worker space, it's generally jobs that are automatable. Now, you can automate any job. And what I mean by that is if I can figure out what you do during your daily job, and I can break that into a flow chart, I can then write an algorithm for each individual step in that process, and then I combine those algos together, and I've got my AI model. A good example, basically, for example, some things basically that we can automate is Goldman Sachs basically are automating the IPO process. It's got 160 steps. Typically, the IPO process will cost most organizations about $10 million, if particularly the larger ones when they go IPO. Goldman is already automating the entire IPO process. So you can automate anything. You can automate creativity as well. We've got general adversarial networks, what I call creative machines. You've got these kind of coming out of companies basically from likes of Autodesk. You can also call them generative design platforms. And what they will do basically is, they will take an existing product, and you then tell them what you want them to do. So, for example, make that product better, and they will run thousands of simulations a minute based on what results you want them to enact or to do. And they'll run thousands to tens of thousands of simulations in virtual reality in a minute, and they'll come up and say, well, based on your parameters and your wishes, I've come up with product version number 2. So companies like General Motors are using those. Basically, we've got NASA using them to build rovers. We've got Under Armour using these to artificial intelligences to design trainers, and then they're 3D printed in the back. That cuts down your time, your product development time by 99%. We've got Airbus using artificial intelligence to help them design the A330neo. We've got Amazon using AI to design clothes. And fashion lines and all that sort of stuff. We've got AIs creating synthetic media and content as well. Basically everything, actually, ironically, from podcasts to music to movies to videos to books to you name it. So from a human perspective, you're going to need a bunch of different skills. Firstly, you're going to need to be adaptable. You're going to be you've got to be entrepreneurial. You've got to basically think like a futurist, because this stuff's changing fast. So we call it kind of exponential mindset. You do have to be creative. You've got to be curious as well. Children are great at this. It's that why. You've got to be empathetic. You've got to be collaborative as well. But when we talk about your ability to be collaborative, it's not just about being able to collaborate with humans. It's about being able to collaborate with machines. It's, for example, if Siri was all of a sudden your co-worker, or Alexa was suddenly your co-worker, how would you talk to them to get whatever result or information you wanted out of them? So that's a different type of collaboration. So in the future, basically, we actually need more human-like soft skills, not less. The fact basically that you should be creative, and being creative will save you, as a fallacy, as I've already described. We've got AIs making music and art and writing books and all that sort of stuff. That's just innovation is quite easy to innovate. If I asked you to innovate a cup, for example, firstly, you've got to know what a cup is, what it does. It holds liquid. You've got to know that it's probably for a human. So you've got to have that reasoning and contextual information. And AIs are getting increasingly good at that. And then once they understand what a cup is, they go, well, now we'll just design it. So innovation, basically, as every innovation consultancy will tell you, is a process. If you can turn something into a process, you can automate it, like it or not. But and then when it comes from the hard skills, again, you've got to be able to almost be a jack of all trades. So this is where we move from being T-shaped individuals throughout our career, where I'm an accountant at the start of my career, I'm an accountant at the end of my career, to actually being an accountant at the start of my career, to being a data scientist in the middle of my career, to being a synthetic biologist at the end of my career. And there's this general, when it comes to retraining, we sort of discussed Accenture, you know, there's kind of this fallacy basically that if you want to get really good at something, you need to spend 10,000 hours doing it. You know, there was a book that came out years and years ago, and that's kind of where that came from. But actually, if you're an accountant and I want to teach you the basic principles, kind of the 101 principles of how to be a data scientist, I can teach you that within about 20 hours. You know, I can do that kind of within a month. And then I just tag team you basically with a data scientist, and then they start doing some on the job training. So as humans, basically, we are absolutely, on the one hand, basically, we are absolutely ingenious. Creativity's got us this far, but we are adaptable. You know, if you could sell me a kettle, you can probably sell me a car. You could probably sell me a house, basically. So, you know, we have an innate ability as humans to be able to learn new knowledge and apply it in new ways. And in a sense, basically, the modern working world beats it out of us. Because they will say, you know, it's all very well that you've got all of these different experiences and all of this extra knowledge, but I just want you to be an accountant. So a lot of our potential is kicked to the curb. And you know, when we have a look at our ability to adapt, you know, if I told you, let's say, for example, you have a look at taxi drivers. You know, you get into a taxi and you say to a taxi driver, you know, I can see fully autonomous cars coming through. You know, that must be a worry. They could sort of go, yeah, you know, and then they'll say, well, you know, it's a few years off, which kind of is. And you say, well, you know, what are you going to do when professional driving is automated? And then sort of go, well, I don't really know. I haven't really thought about it because it's about 2-3 years away. Really, if you can see that your job is already at risk of automation, or if you're an CHRO and you can see that jobs are at risk of automation, that's where you go. Today, you're a taxi driver, but we can see these being the jobs of the future, like teleoperations, for example, in the transportation sector. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually train you to take you from here to here. And so if you can see the jobs that are being automated in time, you transition people from doing this job to this job. And then once that job goes, you just say, look, you're no longer, full self-driving cars are already here. You're redundant now. Let's now move you into this new job here. You know, and that's where companies like Accenture are very, very good at sort of seeing what's coming down the line and then actually putting for their own workforce the right policies and procedures in place so they don't have to make people redundant. So we can do it. Right. You know, I can train you faster than ever before. If you want to be an artificial intelligence, you know, data scientist, designer, whatever it happens to be, go and have a look at, you know, the Coursera courses. You know, most of them you can get for free. But the way that most companies act and the way that most people act is, I'm going to sit in my status quo. And what do you mean that I'm being made redundant now? You know, I kind of saw that coming, but I just didn't bother doing anything because I just didn't.
Right.
That's what's going to get you.